Fala pessoal, eu sou o Paulo Alves, editor de cripto do Infomani, e esse é o Cripto Mais, nosso programa semanal para você que quer saber tudo sobre Bitcoin e outros ativos digitais. O programa de hoje traz uma entrevista exclusiva com o principal nome por trás da Tether, a maior stablecoin do mundo e a criptomoeda mais usada no Brasil, segundo dados da Receita Federal. Eu converso logo mais com o Paulo Ardoino, o CTO da Tether, e você que é usuário dessa criptomoeda já vai deixando as suas dúvidas aqui nos comentários e vem saber muito mais de cripto depois da vinheta. So I'm joined here today by Paulo Arduino, CTO at Tether. Thank you so much, Paulo, for talking to us today.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a real pleasure.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, Paulo. So I guess I'd like to start our conversation by addressing Tether's stellar performance, right? As a company and as an asset during this bear market, Tether has been performing well despite the current market downturn and is growing while other stable coins are facing some difficulties, right? So how do you assess the stablecoin market at present?
Sure. So the current cryptocurrency environment, first of all, has been extremely affected by FTX and all the other issues that happened last year. Right? Everything started with Terra Luna, and then Celsius, and then BlockFi, and then Genesis Trading and Voyager, and then FTX, and so on. Um, And so first of all, that is one of the reasons why we are in the bear market, right? So last year there were many terrible events. The second issue is that the the interest rates, right? The U.S. Has increased the interest rates up to 5% on the U.S. Treasury bills, and so that caused a shrinking of the overall market cap of the stable coins that were US facing, right? So Tether is a stable coin that is not servicing the US, is a stable coin that is working towards the emerging markets and developing countries. So our business model is to provide a dollar token that can be used by people that want to fight inflation. They want to, of course, settle cryptocurrency trading transactions, people that want to save wealth and store wealth, right? We never wanted to go and have our product used by Wall Street. We never wanted to have our product used in the city in London, right? So the US has already the best dollar rails. Europe has already the best euro rails. So the entire business model of Tether has been focusing on the 30 billion people that are unbanked. They don't have access to the fair financial services that the other, X billion people have. And so for this reason, right? So Tether was not affected by this downturn, both in the cryptocurrency market and in the stablecoin market. But our competitors always trying to be, the buddies of Wall Street, right? They always wanted to be, replacing the banks and in the US, right? And in all the primary markets. And I think that is not really a smart idea. So because if you do that, if your business model is trying to be a saving account for the rich, as soon as the interest rates on the US Treasury bills go up, these rich people will take out their money from your stablecoin and will put them in the US Treasury bills. So, and that is what we are seeing happen. So on our as I said, our targets is maybe not the right word. Our business model, our idea, our ethos, our philosophy is to create something that works for all the rest of the people that are living in Turkey, that are living in South America, for example, in Argentina or Venezuela, or living in Vietnam, and or Georgia, right, or many other places. So think about it, right? So you asked me how Tether could do this important performance, right? So Tether makes money on the interest rates of the UST bills, and Tether is providing a product that is being used by people in the emerging markets. These people are subject to inflation rates and devaluation in their national currency that goes from 10% per year to 90% per year, right? So at some point, the Turkish lira devaluated against the dollar like 80% in 2 years. So our users are fine in letting us keep like 3-4% of the interest rates because we are helping them. We are giving them a lifeline to combat inflation. We are creating a useful product to them. And that is really the most important thing. So I think it's the most important realization of Tether is how it is being used in emerging markets, especially after COVID, right? After the pandemic, the situation, the global economical situation started to crumble. You had all this, so already the US was already that, so even the US had been affected because remember that the US had to print 30% of the total dollars in circulation were printed in the last few years, right? In the last 2 or 3 years. So even the US was affected. So imagine all the other countries. And so that's why, I mean, all the people that are living in emerging markets really won't have to have access to the US dollar. But since they don't have access to fair bank accounts and fair banking because they are too poor to be serviced or to be of interest of the banking industry, they are turning to Tether. So I'm really proud, not because we made a good profit. I'm really proud because we created a product that really helps people.
So I guess you gave already a sneak peek on my other question, but yeah, stablecoins are often seen as a gateway to trade other cryptocurrencies, right? So people usually, well, maybe in the past, they bought stablecoins and then converted them into Bitcoin and other currencies. But as you said, you've always emphasized this other use, which is getting a reliable, quick way to hold US dollars, right? So could you elaborate a little bit more on that and maybe give us some more examples on a notable use cases you've seen, maybe besides Turkey?
Yeah, sure. So Tether more and more is being used for, started in 2014 as an asset to be that was mainly used for cryptocurrency trading, right? For cryptocurrency trading settlement. But more and more over the recent years, it started to almost find many use cases by itself. Right? I would like to claim that we thought about it and we were so great and so good to be the ones that created and suggested all these use cases to the people. But actually, the beauty of it, I think, is the romantic part about it is that we just created a product and people are around the world are figuring out how to use it in their own best interest. And we have seen how, for example, in Argentina, Tether is being used in a market in Buenos Aires as a way to accept dollars for goods and services. We have seen how USDT is being used for remittances, right? So remittances is that thing where you have people living, for example, in primary markets like Europe, maybe in Germany or in France, and they have families that are living in developing countries. So usually, what happens is that they have to send money at home. So they have to send money at home, but the way usually to do it is using some companies like MoneyGram or similar that can apply fees that vary from 10% to 30%. And imagine like a person that worked all the month to save this money, to send this money at home, thinking that 30%, up to 30% of that money could remain in the pockets of some financial institution that just need to basically do a simple transfer. That isn't fair, right? Because we live in 2023. We live in an era where digitalization is well established, and we should be able to transfer money as we transfer data. And yet, we still have these companies that have sort of or had the monopoly of money transfer, and so they took advantage of it. So using stablecoins like Tether USDT is improving the life of people and is allowing people to keep the money that they work so hard for themselves. So that is, I think, an immense use case for remittances. But also we have, people that are working as influencers simply, right? So they could be paid for their gigs online, from all over the world. Or we have, freelancers as well, right? They can be paid for any service, right? You are a developer, freelance developer, you can accept USDT coming from everywhere, right? Is with a snap of a finger. Or you have an e-commerce and you want to open yourself up to customers coming from many other places, right? It's not just your local customers. And you can accepting USDT is cheaper than credit cards, it's faster, and also will allow to access a huge market that is the one of the cryptocurrency holders that counts like at peak was 400 million people. So these are examples of real life use cases of Tether USDT.
So this the use case of the dollarization, right? So just to preserve your money while inflation is growing, it's not something that is quite questioned in Brazil because, for example, Brazil, uh, um, on the contrary, different from Turkey or Argentina, the Brazilian currency is actually gaining value compared to the dollar in this year, for example. But even so, Tether has been the main cryptocurrency used by Brazilians according to the official the country's tax agency, right? So what's your perspective on this particular trend? It seems to me particularly that so much money that wouldn't be actually linked only to freelancers or something like that. It seems to be something bigger, right? So what's your take on that, on this?
So I think the first of all, people like to. I think cryptocurrency showed that people can finally keep control over their own wealth. That's, I think, let's remember why this industry started, right? So Bitcoin started as a response to the crisis in 2007, 2008, right? So the first block that was mined 2009 was an answer, a bold answer to the greediness of the financial industry. And so Bitcoin started to pave the way to show how people could control their own wealth. And don't be mistaken, right? I'm not here today to tell you that Tether is exactly as Bitcoin. Tether is still centralized, right? Tether is a centralized stable coin. Bitcoin is decentralized. But still, Tether is a way to keep control over your own wealth, have always at your fingertips in your smartphone. And that is the first time that people have that feeling, right? So there is a big case where people are starting to understand that you could have a saving account, like a banking saving account, but you could have your saving account in Bitcoin because it's something that is like a long-term hedge against inflation and is this unstoppable money. And then a checking account, so the account that you use for payments in USDT. And also now there is an amazing company called SmartPay. They made this integration between USDT and the Bitcoin Lightning and Pix. That is, my understanding is that the payment system that everyone uses in Brazil. So with the support of Pix, now again even more so, you have your money in a cryptocurrency exchange, you have your money in a wallet, you can spend it to pay all your invoices, to pay for at the gas station, to buy groceries, all the things you want to do. And so that is, I think, the that is the perfect trade union between the traditional financial system or the traditional payment system and the new digital era. And I think we want to see more of these use cases because they just make sense. They will make people saving money. It's is extremely fast. It's cheaper than most of the other solutions. So I think that is why Tether is ramping up in its usage in Brazil because it's so easy to use for people, is easy to access, and you can have it, you can keep it in your own wallet on your smartphone.
Paulo, I've talked to some people that expressed some concerns about possibly people being using Tether to maybe escape from taxes, right? While remitting dollars outside the country, because as you said, it's really easy to use it. So it would also, of course, be easy to just convert reals into Tether and send to people everywhere in the world, as you said. Is Tether able to detect any potential activity like that? Maybe any criminal activity, maybe regarding tax evasion, something like that, what's associated with its token.
So Tether works with law enforcement all around the world, right? So tax evasion is not a problem that started with Bitcoin, is not a problem that started with stablecoins. It's a problem that our people are doing tax evasion, right? It's not the technology that does tax evasion. So when if people decide to perform illicit activities, that is of course not a blame on the technology, but should be a blame on people. Now, that said, um, Tether have been working right with law enforcement all around the world. I think so far we had helped law enforcement in more than 250 different cases. We had in many occasions it happens that we help law enforcement to track for example, hacks, stolen funds. We freeze them, we return them to the legitimate owner. But it is important to understand that Tether is a centralized stablecoin, is using the banking rails, and also it has to comply with the regulations that of the different countries. So for us, we take pride of the fact that we are respectful of the laws and we work with law enforcement. So we and remember one thing, right? So Tether is based on is a centralized stablecoin using the centralized transport layers. These transport layers are the blockchains, and blockchains are transparent, right? So everything is recorded on blockchains. So and that is recorded pretty much for eternity. So I think if someone wants to do any illicit activity using stable coins or using even Bitcoin is the worst of the approaches because that is traceable, that is something that is public, that is transparent, and so on.
Okay, right. So fair enough. Well, Paulo, also Tether is usually criticized, right, for not being audited by reputable auditing firms, despite the fact that companies like Coinbase, for example, which is a public listed company in the U.S., undergoes regular financial audits. Why hasn't Tether taken this step yet? Does it have any plans to do so in the future?
Sure. So let's start a little bit from the state of the art. So, first of all, there is no stablecoin that has a full audit. Stablecoins have attestations that are the industry standard. Actually, Tether has the attestation provided by BDO, that is the top 5 auditing agency in the world. So we have an extremely reputable firm that is doing our attestation. Attestations, you're right, are not full audits, right? So why Tether or other stablecoins are not full audits? Let me explain to you. The reason is that in the two main jurisdictions, that would be US and Europe, there is no clear regulation, right? The top 4 auditing agencies, right? The classic top 4, right? They don't want to take on the risk of deciding what is good or what is bad for a stablecoin. If regulators are not taking the time to create sensible regulations that provide the guidelines, why a top rated auditing agency should do a full audit, assuming and or taking the risk to decide how a stablecoin should work? That's the issue, right? So, but we know that the US and Europe will start providing guidelines that will kind of, provide a global, guideline to the different auditing agencies. So I think, so far we provided so much transparency. If you look at our attestation, it's so thorough. We provided all the different asset classes. We are providing so much transparency in that attestation. Recently, we also added the new categories explaining how much gold we have and how much bitcoins we have. So that is all there. Of course, we will always try to do better. We are always aiming for the best. And we proved that over time, right? In 2019, we were so criticized because no one knew anything about Tether. So we started taking steps and we started providing attestations in 2021. Then then we had the commercial papers. No one liked the commercial papers, although they were super safe. They were rated A1 and A2 by Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and Fitch. Fine. No one liked them. We announced publicly that we would reduce the commercial papers to zero. We did. We reduced $30 billion worth of commercial papers to zero and converted everything in USD deals. So now we increased the USD deals. We are now around 85% in cash equivalent in our portfolio. So the Tether has 100% of all the reserves that are backing the tokens in super liquid form. And also on top of that, on top of the 100% reserves, has an additional, roughly today, $2.7 billion that are profits of the company, that the company decided to not distribute to make the stablecoin even more stable, even safer for everyone. Right? We could have distributed that money, yet we didn't. So that is why I think I'm really proud to work for this company. All the other companies would have distributed that money, enjoyed their lives, and so on. The majority of that money is staying in the company to further protect its users.
Okay, but before still on the auditing theme, you said then if the countries approve regulation, Tether will be willing to get audited. Is that right?
Absolutely. Well, it's not that we are willing. We are anyway in the process of preparing ourselves for a full audit.
Including in Brazil. Brazil is approaching regulation right now. So Tether would be willing to get audited as a central bank. If central bank obligates, for example, any kind of audit, would Tether be able to do it?
If the auditors will take on the risk of auditing us or any other stablecoin, then yes. I mean, think about it, right? A top 4 agency would make on an audit like this, right? Maybe let's put a number, right? $1 million per year, right, to do a full audit. But then this auditing agency would have thousands of customers, right? The big 4 have thousands and thousands and thousands of customers that these customers don't want that their auditing agencies take on any risk. So we need regulations that are clear, and we need auditing firms to take on the risk after they see the regulations, after they understand the regulations. So it will take time. But again, we tried in the past, and we will keep trying. So I'm really confident that the full audit is in our path, and we don't have anything to hide. We are excited to provide more transparency as always.
Okay, fair enough. So Paulo, now to the business of Tether. Tether's business have been thriving, right? As you mentioned already, due to the Fed rates, right? So, but now everyone's expecting the Fed rates to go down. Well, maybe this year eventually. What's the plan of the company to keep thriving financially when the risk-free rates start to decrease?
That's a good question. So first of all, we are only with the part that is the excess of the reserves, right? So the part that is excess of reserve, we decided to start investing a small portion up to 15%. Not doesn't mean 15% all the time. It means up to 15% in Bitcoin, because it's a good diversification. It's a long-term asset that could provide the coupling for the rest of the financial markets. So that is one example. Also, Tether is expanding its business lines. You could see recently we announced investments in the products from in other areas rather than simple stable coins, like for example, Hole Punch, that is a peer-to-peer communication system. We are also going to announce soon investments in the energy sector and in the Bitcoin mining sector. So all this to prepare, first of all, everything of these investments is being done with our company equity rather than using the reserves, first of all. That's why we like to keep a big war chest in the company, because we want to make sure that people are safe and sound and understand that the reserves are safe. And also, but at the same time, it's important to use our expertise in other fields. And we are super committed to the ethos of Bitcoin when it comes to decentralization, to build products that are following the same direction.
Okay, perfect. So Tether recently announced it was starting to put part of the reserves in Bitcoin, right? So and about Bitcoin, everyone is expecting on how is Bitcoin going to react to this new financial environment, especially next year, right? Approaching the next halving. Uh, do you believe that Bitcoin will maintain its regular cycles and will grow again as we approach the halving next year?
Well, the interesting aspect of the halving is that it will start providing, instead of 6.25 Bitcoin per block, will start providing 3.125 Bitcoin per block. So it means that the cost of mining will go up, right? So because basically you have less, as a miner, you have lower output. So you have to, ideally the cost in order to be sustainable has to go up, or a lot of miners will go out of business. So basically the hashing rate will go down. But so, as you said, cyclically, what happened is that the price of Bitcoin went up. I mean, my personal view, and should not be considered any sort of financial advice, is that Bitcoin is definitely an asset that is extremely important for the future. Is I always, like in a sort of rhetorical way, I ask people if they think that we are talking about AI, we are talking about machine-to-machine payments, we are talking about robotics, and the interesting question is, if you had an AI that would be super intelligent in 2 years, would you think that that AI would use the US dollar or would use Bitcoin? I bet on Bitcoin because that's the type of money that an AI would build, right? So because it's unstoppable, it's clear, it's simple, it's predictable, it's governed by the same laws that an AI is governed from, right? So there are environment reasons why I'm positive on the long term value of Bitcoin, and also the short term, because the next halving is in less than 1 year. And also, so there are environmental reasons, there are just adoption reasons, right? So it means, I think that more and more countries, more and more cities are going to look at Bitcoin as a hedge, right? That's why I like what happened in El Salvador. El Salvador added Bitcoin as an option, right? So they had first the dollar, and they add Bitcoin as an optionality. And some critics say that, yes, Bitcoin is not extremely well used in El Salvador. But my point is that the real adoption takes years. Right? We have seen how even when the European Union, wanted to introduce the euro in Europe, it took 5 years to design the processes, to work with the banks, to work with all the payment infrastructures to have it supported. So it is just more than 1 year that then El Salvador introduced Bitcoin as a legal tender. And the most important aspect is the optionality. What if the world tomorrow, will completely change from the dollar, the US dollar? Many countries will find themselves completely bust, and yet there will be a country, and I think many in a few months or years, there will be many other countries that will start looking at Bitcoin as an edge. And it cannot take, if something happens in the next months, right, to the financial industry, the traditional financial industry, you cannot, as a country, rush and build a super quick Bitcoin infrastructure. And it doesn't work like that. It takes time, it takes years. So I think I'm really happy to see that a country like El Salvador is thinking about this, is thinking about the possibility, and is thinking about creating a hedge for as a hedge for their financial infrastructure that doesn't rely on the traditional rails, but is completely segregated from the traditional rails.
So this vision of Bitcoin as a single global currency, right, which I think it's a division you share as well. It seems to me that it excludes Tether in the long term, right? So how do you see the future of the digital assets? Will Tether have a future if Bitcoin becomes a global currency?
Well, look, despite what people might think, we are not here to root for one currency or one national currency or the other. We are Bitcoiners in Tether. At Tether, we are Bitcoiners, right? So if you see our educational material, if you follow us, you see that we spend so much time and energy on Bitcoin adoption. We are funding alongside with Bitfinex the RGB protocol, that is a tokenization layer for creating tokens on top of Lightning Network. Again, Allpunch is Bitcoin for communications, and so on and so forth, right? So that is, we believe that we are not one of those. We don't want to be one of those dinosaurs that are like not prepared for what comes next. We don't want to make the same mistakes of the bankers that are so stuck in their mindset, and they hate Bitcoin just because it will change. It's changing the way people perceive money. So it's our duty, right, coming from the Bitcoin industry, to not be stuck on one single product, that is Tether USDT. First of all, we created other products like Tether Gold. Tether Gold is is a stable coin that is fully backed 100% by real gold in a Swiss vault. So that is, for example, another option, and I think it's pretty cool because Bitcoin is the digital gold, and the gold as Bitcoin is scarce because most of it has been already extracted from the soil, and it's hard to extract like Bitcoin. That is hard to create because there is a proof of work. So we are thinking about the future. We are thinking about many other options. We have a ton of products. Again, Allpunch, energy production, Bitcoin mining. And soon there will be, I think, important news on the role of Tether as a global communications infrastructure and financial infrastructure. So we are excited to be part of the story. We are not focused, and we are not. Our goal is not trying to stick with one product and hope that it will work forever.
Great. And what about Brazil, Paulo? Does Tether have any plans to make a physical presence in Brazil, to have an office in Brazil, maybe? What plans can you share with us?
Well, first of all, I would like to come and visit because I love the meat, and I have to compare it with some some other countries that produce meat, and people say that Brazil is the most insane quality of meat. But jokes aside, yes, I think that one of the we always are looking to expand, first of all, our licenses. And for us, it's important to have clarity before moving, right? So if we got finally, and you mentioned that, right? The government is discussing about laws that to regulate cryptocurrencies and stablecoin. As soon as we have clarity, then we would be definitely interested to seek a license and then maybe start some operations. Is a process that, of course, cannot happen from one day to another because these things, when it comes to laws and licenses, takes months, right? So it's not years. Europe is like 3 or 4 years in the work of their license, they call MiCA license. But yeah, it's definitely our focus is South America, Central America, and Asia and Africa, right? So it just makes sense for us to open hubs around the world where we see that we have traction. It seems like in Brazil, as you said it, there is a lot of traction. So it is in our radar.
Okay, great. So, Paulo, I guess that will be it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
I really did appreciate your questions and your thoroughness. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Então, pessoal, essa foi a entrevista com o Paulo Ardoino, o CTO da Tether, a criptomoeda mais usada no Brasil, a stablecoin mais valiosa do mundo. Espero que vocês tenham gostado do papo. Deixe as suas perguntas aqui nos comentários, as suas dúvidas sobre esse assunto que a gente tenta responder ao longo da semana. E, claro, confere as matérias sobre esse assunto lá no infomoney.com.br. Eu espero todo mundo na próxima semana. Até lá.